I'm sometimes asked a similar question: what's happening and what's going to happen? Okay, and so far as I can tell, we're in a situation where we are going very quickly and pretty powerfully in opposite directions. That is to say, the kind of thing I'm talking about is popping up all over. Amazingly different people are coming to very similar insights. And these figures whom I've mentioned, and many, many other figures, and all the great stuff that's being done by women and about women is amazing. You could look and think, this is it, this is finally. But the other side is more powerful and is going in the other direction. More intolerant, more fundamentalist, including science. So I don't know who's going to win, but it really is, I think, it's not a time of wonderful coming together. It's a time of very much like the United States Congress. It's a time of very hard communication. There are some wonderful things happening, truly, believe me. But overall, it's harder and harder to communicate with the nothing but mentality, which is in every field. In every field. And one of the things I find most depressing is the curricula of college. Right? The college where I taught for 20 years, that you could, I don't know, if you clocked 10,000 hours, you would find not 1 hour given to anything like the cultivation of imagination, intuition, even in art and literature. So that's tough. That's part of the reason that the non-ideal consciousness is so forceful, is because the shadow is so powerful. So this is a country, here, this culture is based on a holocaust of native people, right? Racism and a pursuit of gold. And those are deep in our DNA. And we have the best ideals that are nourishing democracies all over the world with these fabulous founders. So, you can get a big headache this way. I've done a lot of reading with these founders. They are fabulous. We haven't, except for Lincoln and a few others, King, we haven't seen anything like them. And they all owned slaves. And only Washington freed the slaves against the wishes of his wife at his death. All the others said, we just have to live with this. So what the good news is that the evolution of consciousness is real. And we are collectively, as a whole human community, is busy raising the level or the criteria for what is good, truth, and beautiful. The bad news is we don't seem able to realize the criteria for truth and goodness that we are able to articulate. That's how I mean it. So it is not any longer possible to say that slavery is sort of okay. Get used to it. Stop being such an idealist. So that's evolution of consciousness. It's not okay to say that. And there are millions of people enslaved, despite that ideal. It's not okay to have about 1/6 of the human population starving. It's not okay. We've got to that level, but it's happening. So when you read, I read a biography of Alexander the Great, went to town to town to town all through the Mediterranean world, beheading men, right, and enslaving women. It was okay. The people who objected to slavery in the Roman Empire didn't object because it was wrong. It was inefficient, and it sort of demoralized working class people. So evolution of consciousness is a good thing. But we've got a lot of people. There's going to be too little water, there's too little oil now, but it's going to be too little water soon, and that's going to be unpleasant. So then, despite our ideals, it's going to be really hard to realize the truth. I'm not saying we won't. I'm saying it's going to be very, very hard because the consciousness is so frail about these ideals. as I read it. I'm only one person, and you're here to figure out the best reasons. Okay, it's a very, very complicated question, but let me say this much, that in the last 2,500 years of the West, virtually all the institutions have been controlled by males. And there aren't currently major institutions that are controlled by females, but there are increasingly major institutions in which females have a significant voice, but not yet more than in any major institution in the world that I know of. So the prominence of Sophia that I'm recommending, and wisdom and imagination and nurturing and compassion, all those ideals are still endowed or subordinate. But like the lily and the rock and the grass on Madison Avenue and whatever, they can be very powerful, and they are. What I see is the biggest problem with regard to how fast can we make these big changes is that females who want to have the power that males have had have to more or less become male. And so Sophia will lose again. That's a hard problem. The only way to get power is by the terms that the males have set up.
Well, that's the way to get in the door, but then you can integrate.
You can. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying this is very hard. So there we are. But it's the right challenge for our time. Well, one of the right ones. Thank you all. Next week is Sean. Right? Okay. See you then.